Attraction without respect is fragile. It can spark quickly, feel intense, and disappear just as fast. Many men experience moments where a woman is interested, curious, even emotionally invested, only to slowly lose seriousness toward him. What most men misunderstand is that attraction alone does not anchor anything. Respect does. When attraction is built on respect, it becomes stable, grounded, and difficult to play with. Without it, you are entertaining but disposable. This is why becoming a man people respect is not about dominance, tricks, or emotional distance. It starts much closer to home. Respect always begins with how you treat yourself. Other people rarely treat you better than you treat yourself. When a man tolerates ambiguity, accepts subtle disrespect and calls it love, laughs off insults to keep peace, or remains constantly available despite being taken for granted, he is silently teaching others how to treat him. The message he sends is not spoken, but it is loud. You can give me less, and I will still stay. Over time, this erodes attraction and replaces it with convenience. A man with self-respect moves differently. He does not beg for attention or chase validation. He does not over-explain his worth or panic when someone pulls back. He shifts from hoping to be chosen to calmly choosing. This is not a mindset alone. It must show up in behavior, timing, and decisions. From self-respect comes boundaries. Boundaries are often misunderstood as being harsh, controlling, or emotionally cold. In reality, boundaries are calm statements of what you allow around you. Disrespect rarely begins loudly. It starts small, with colder replies, delayed responses, subtle attitude shifts. When unchecked, these patterns grow. Many men stay silent out of fear of losing her, store resentment, then eventually explode, losing even more respect. Effective boundaries are simple. They are brief, clear, and free of emotional essays. They are not threats, and they are not debates. The only real enforcement is adjusting access immediately. When boundaries are not enforced, they are not boundaries. They are wishes. Women sense this instantly. Actions must then match words. No woman respects what you claim. She respects what you consistently live. You cannot say you do not tolerate disrespect while continuing to reward it with attention, reassurance, and availability. The strongest message is behavior. Sometimes that means stepping back, reducing access, or walking away quietly, not to punish or manipulate, but because dignity is not negotiable. Absence, when grounded in self-respect, speaks far louder than confrontation. When these three elements align, something shifts. You no longer look like a man trying to prove his value. You look like a man who already has it. Curiosity replaces testing, and seriousness replaces games. But respect alone is not enough to sustain attraction long term, and that is where the next layer begins. Next, we will talk about why leveling up your life is non-negotiable if you want attraction to last. Respect creates the foundation, but it does not carry attraction forever. Many men reach a point where they are calm, emotionally stable, and respected. Yet something still feels missing. The woman may admire them, trust them, even feel safe around them. But the pull weakens over time. This is because the world does not reward potential, intentions, or good character alone. It rewards lived value. A man can be respectable and still stagnant, predictable and small in the direction of his life. When that happens, attraction slowly fades, not out of cruelty, but out of biology and psychology. Everything begins with the mind. Your life will never grow beyond the way you think. Most men believe they have money problems or dating problems, but what they truly have is a thinking problem. They defeat themselves before starting, fear rejection before it happens, and label discipline as stress. Deep inside, many carry quiet beliefs like, I'm not enough, I need to impress her, I can't afford to lose her, or women always leave eventually. These beliefs shape behavior. A man who moves from fear chases, overthinks, becomes jealous, seeks reassurance, and loses his center. None of this is attractive. Reprogramming your mind means building a new identity. One where your worth is not borrowed from approval, where setbacks do not collapse you, and where you think long-term like a builder, not react short-term like a survivor. Once the mind shifts, discipline must follow. Motivation is unreliable. It appears when you feel good and disappears when you need it most. Locking in means acting even when you do not feel like it. It means removing distractions, addictions, and quick pleasures that slowly weaken you. A man who cannot control himself never feels powerful. And women sense this immediately. Discipline creates quiet confidence, structure, and direction. You stop talking about what you will do and start embodying it. This grounded energy is deeply attractive because it signals stability and momentum. Consistency is what turns effort into identity. Women do not fall in love with your good days. They fall in love with what remains over time. Consistency makes you reliable in the best way. Your body changes, your posture shifts, your voice steadies, your presence becomes calm and solid. Over time, consistency creates self-trust. And when you trust yourself, you stop chasing validation from women entirely. At this stage, attraction becomes a byproduct, not a goal. Yet many men still sabotage themselves by wearing masks instead of standing comfortably in who they are. That is where the final transformation begins. Many men successfully build self-respect and level up their lives, only to quietly sabotage everything by trying to perform instead of simply being. This is one of the most subtle and common mistakes. Once a man starts seeing results, he often begins copying other men, adopting borrowed personalities, or wearing a mask he believes is more attractive. The irony is that attraction weakens the moment a man stops feeling natural in his own skin. This is where the idea of be yourself is deeply misunderstood. Being yourself does not mean staying the same, refusing growth, or using authenticity as an excuse for laziness. It means becoming so comfortable with who you are that you no longer feel the need to sell yourself. Performance always leaks insecurity. Women may not consciously identify it, but they feel it. A man who is chasing approval often agrees with everything she says, hides his real opinions, laughs too hard, avoids saying no, and constantly adjusts himself to keep her comfortable. Over time, he becomes pleasant but invisible. Being yourself in a mature sense means you do not hide your standards to maintain harmony. You do not pretend to be unbothered when something clearly crosses a line, only to explode later. You do not fake indifference when you genuinely like someone, and you do not imitate another man's swagger, tone, or emotional style. Your energy becomes grounded rather than theatrical. Calm replaces performance. This version of authenticity creates clarity. Women are overwhelmed by mixed signals, emotional confusion, and men who are unsure of themselves. When you are comfortable being real, your communication becomes clean. Your yes is clear. Your no is calm, and your interest is honest without being needy. You are present, but not chasing, engaged, but not collapsing, confident, but not arrogant. Being yourself does not mean expressing every emotion the moment it arises. It means being honest and controlled. You feel deeply, but you choose how and when to express it. You do not dump emotions for relief, nor do you suppress them out of fear. This balance creates emotional safety without killing attraction. When a man reaches this stage, something important happens. Women no longer feel the need to test him, decode him, or manage him. They experience him as real, in a world full of masks. This is rare. Realness creates trust, and trust deepens attraction over time. Attraction, at its core, is not something you chase or negotiate for. It is something you build from the inside out. Self-respect forms the base. Growth gives direction. Authenticity gives depth. This process takes time, patience, and discipline, but it changes everything. And while this is only the foundation, there are deeper signs, patterns, and lessons that determine whether attraction grows or fades. Next, we will bring everything together and look at the bigger picture that most men never see. When you step back and look at everything so far, a pattern becomes clear. Most men do not lose attraction because they are bad, careless, or unloving. They lose it because they move through relationships emotionally instead of structurally. They react instead of lead. They allow feelings, fear, and momentary comfort to dictate decisions that slowly erode their position. Attraction is not destroyed in dramatic moments. It fades through small compromises that feel harmless at the time. A man without structure is always negotiating with his emotions. On good days, he feels confident and grounded. On bad days, he becomes uncertain, reactive, and overly accommodating. Women experience this inconsistency as instability, even if he means well. Emotional swings create confusion, and confusion kills attraction. This is why standards matter more than feelings. Standards give you something solid to stand on when emotions fluctuate. They prevent you from shrinking yourself to preserve short-term peace. Moving by standards instead of emotions is what separates men who maintain attraction from those who lose it over time. A man guided by emotions asks, "How do I keep her happy right now?" A man guided by standards asks, "Does this align with the man I am becoming?" That difference changes everything. It affects what you tolerate, how you respond, and when you walk away. Attraction grows when a woman feels that your center does not depend on her reactions. This is also where patience becomes critical. Many men expect immediate results. They change their behavior for a week, act more distant, more disciplined, more self-respecting, and then become frustrated when attraction does not instantly spike. Real change does not announce itself loudly. It shows up subtly. Your tone changes, your timing changes, your energy slows down. People begin responding to you differently before they consciously understand why. Another mistake men make at this stage is overcorrecting. They confuse self-respect with emotional shutdown, discipline with rigidity, and confidence with emotional unavailability. Attraction does not grow when you become cold. It grows when you become solid. Calm is not the same as distant. Boundaries are not the same as walls. Women do not want chaos, but they also do not want emptiness. They want presence with structure. As you apply these principles, you may notice something uncomfortable. Some women will lose interest. This is not failure. It is alignment. When you stop overgiving, over-explaining, and over-adjusting, you remove the version of you that was easy to consume. Not everyone stays when access becomes earned. The right women, however, respond differently. They become more curious, more respectful, and more intentional. At this point, attraction is no longer something you chase. It responds to you. And that shift changes how you see relationships entirely. You are no longer asking how to keep someone from leaving. You are asking whether they deserve a place in your life. This perspective sets the stage for the final understanding most men miss. Next, we will talk about the long-term outcome of living this way and why attraction becomes a side effect rather than a goal. When a man truly internalizes these principles, the biggest shift is not in how women treat him, but in how he experiences himself. He stops waking up with a quiet anxiety about whether he is doing enough, saying the right things, or being perceived correctly. His nervous system calms. Decisions become cleaner. He no longer negotiates his worth moment by moment based on someone else's mood. This inner stability is what most men underestimate. Yet, it is exactly what long-term attraction feeds on. At this stage, attraction stops feeling urgent. When you're no longer afraid of losing someone, you stop behaving in ways that make you lose them. Desperation disappears. Not because you are emotionally numb, but because your life has weight outside the relationship. You have direction, momentum, and standards that exist whether she stays or goes. Women feel this immediately. It shows in how you listen without leaning forward, how you speak without rushing, how you remain present without trying to control outcomes. Another quiet change happens here. You stop romanticizing chaos. Many men confuse emotional intensity with connection. They believe that drama, push-pull dynamics, and emotional highs and lows mean passion in reality. Those patterns are often symptoms of insecurity and instability. When you become grounded, emotionally regulated, and consistent, the relationship may feel calmer than what you are used to. At first, this can feel unfamiliar, even boring. But calm does not mean dead. Calm means safe, focused, and sustainable. This is where many men unconsciously self-sabotage. They create problems, provoke reactions, or pull away unnecessarily because chaos feels familiar. Growth requires letting go of old emotional addictions. You begin to realize that real attraction does not need constant stimulation. It deepens through trust, presence, and shared direction. A woman does not need to guess where she stands with you, and paradoxically, this clarity increases her emotional investment rather than reducing it. Living this way also changes how you handle loss. If a relationship ends, it hurts, but it does not shatter you. You grieve without collapsing. You reflect without self-blame. You move forward without bitterness. This emotional resilience is rare, and it becomes part of your identity. Women sense when a man has survived disappointment without becoming cynical or closed off. It signals emotional maturity, not weakness. Over time, attraction becomes something that follows you rather than something you pursue. People treat you differently because you treat yourself differently. You no longer seek validation to feel whole. You share yourself because you already are. This is the point where dating stops feeling like a performance and starts feeling like a filter. But this is not the end. It is the beginning of a deeper understanding of relationships, patterns, and red flags that only become visible once you are no longer operating from fear. Next, we will tie everything together and look at the full picture most men never reach, even after years of dating experience. When you reach this stage, your entire relationship framework changes. You stop viewing dating as a process of convincing, proving, or earning affection. Instead, it becomes a process of observation. You watch how someone shows up, how they respond to boundaries, how they handle calm, and how they react when they do not get immediate access to you. This shift alone filters out a large percentage of incompatible connections without conflict or drama. Most men never reach this level because it requires emotional honesty with oneself. It forces you to admit where you previously tolerated things you should not have, where you traded self-respect for short-term connection, and where you confused intensity with meaning. This honesty can feel uncomfortable at first. It exposes patterns you may have repeated for years, but once seen clearly, those patterns lose their power. At this point, you also stop chasing chemistry and start valuing alignment. Chemistry is easy to create and just as easy to lose. Alignment is rare. Alignment shows up in how values match behavior, how communication stays clean under pressure, and how respect remains even during disagreement. When you operate from self-respect and standards, you no longer mistake charm for character or attention for commitment. Another important change is how you handle silence and space. Silence no longer triggers anxiety. Space no longer feels like rejection. You understand that healthy attraction breathes. You allow things to unfold without forcing momentum. Ironically, this patience often accelerates emotional investment from the right woman. Because she feels no pressure and no manipulation, she feels choice. You also become selective with your energy. You no longer invest deeply in someone who has not shown consistency, effort, and emotional availability over time. This is not emotional withholding. It is discernment. You give warmth without overextension. You show interest without surrendering your center. This balance is difficult to fake and impossible to maintain without real inner work. Perhaps the most important shift is that you stop trying to be impressive. You let your life speak. Your routines, your discipline, your boundaries, and your calm presence communicate everything that needs to be known. Attraction becomes quiet, natural, and mutual. There's less guessing, fewer games, and more clarity. From the outside, it may look simple. From the inside, it feels stable and stability. When combined with direction and authenticity, is what creates lasting attraction. This is why the process was never about tactics or lines. It was about becoming a man who does not need to chase, because his life already moves forward. There is one final piece that ties all of this together and gives it long-term meaning. Next, we will close the loop and look at the deeper truth behind attraction that most men never fully internalize. When everything is stripped down, attraction is not something you ask for, negotiate, or chase. It is something that forms naturally around a man who is anchored in himself. Most men spend years trying to change how women respond to them, without ever changing the internal structure that determines those responses. They focus on tactics instead of standards, reactions instead of direction. This is why the results never last. True attraction begins the moment you stop needing it to feel complete. When you respect yourself, you no longer bargain with your dignity for closeness. When you level up your life, you no longer expect a relationship to give you purpose. When you are comfortable being yourself, you no longer perform for approval. These three elements work together. Remove one, and the structure weakens. Combine them, and attraction becomes a side effect of who you are, not something you pursue. This is also why the process cannot be rushed. There is no overnight transformation that rewires years of fear-based habits, emotional shortcuts, and identity gaps. Real change happens through application, observation, and adjustment. You try, you notice what shifts, you correct course, you stop reacting emotionally and start moving intentionally. Over time, your nervous system learns that you are safe within yourself. From that safety, confidence grows quietly. A man who lives this way does not need to announce his standards. He does not threaten to leave, test loyalty, or demand reassurance. His boundaries are felt through consistency. His presence is calm, not because he is detached, but because he is grounded. He chooses rather than hopes. And when he walks away, he does so without bitterness, because he knows he did not abandon himself to stay. This is the deeper truth most men never reach. Attraction is not about being more impressive, more mysterious, or more dominant. It is about being more whole. When you are whole, you no longer tolerate what diminishes you, and you no longer chase what does not choose you. Women respond to this not because of strategy, but because it feels safe, solid, and rare. Apply these principles in real life. Watch patterns instead of words. Move by standards instead of emotions. Allow time to reveal who aligns with the man you are becoming. This is the foundation. There are many deeper signs, dynamics, and lessons that only become visible once you stop operating from fear and start operating from self-respect. And from this place, attraction no longer feels like a question. It feels like a natural consequence.